member's time is expired. The question is that this bill be now read a second time. I call on the member for Maitland.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. History is made by those who turn up, and it's interesting to note that many on that side of the House were not actually motivated to turn up. And again, it's a symbol of their arrogance and the shambolic nature of their business. So I rise to oppose the Land and Property Information New South Wales Authorised Transaction Bill of 2016. With this bill, we see a government led only by its privatisation ideology, led only by its desire to privatise all that the people of New South Wales hold dear. We see this Baird-Grant Liberal National Government move to privatise the key to that fundamental Australian principle, the right to own our own home, by selling off the very information which confers that basic right to all Australians. Speaker, as the member for Cessnock, Shadow Minister for Finance, Services and Property, has said earlier tonight, registration and title of property is fundamental to defining the great Australian dream, ownership of our own home. And I well remember the best thing about purchasing our home with my husband was the feeling of purchasing our own place, defined and clearly ours, that no one could ever take from us, that we were free to live and raise our family in. This tangible sense of ownership was strengthened by the details held about our home, knowing that our ownership was secure, that it was registered with the government as our own little piece of Australia. It's not surprising to see that a government that has lost its direction, that cannot find its place other than as a facilitator of merchant banks, that's so arrogant and out of touch with the community. It's not surprising to see this government act with such disrespect and disregard for the fundamental value of the data warehouse, the title and registration of more than 3.5 million titles held by the Land and Titles Office, that entity which defines the very geography and ownership of land within this state. Property rights are a fundamental basis of our entire system of law and government. They are invoked in considering ownership and rights for contracts, for disputes and settlements, from first home buyers to retirees downsizing to family and business law disputes. They touch every important milestone in our lives. We need clear and accurate records kept by an independent entity. And I note the contribution of the member for Balmain talking about the conflict of interest potentials from this privatisation. We need an independent entity which does not have an interest in the commercial benefits or losses that may be conferred on individuals or companies by transactions in the delineation and transfer of property. Good governments value the assets of the state and the assets of its citizens. Yet here we have a government who knows the price of everything, the value of nothing, and that price will raise for the ordinary people of this state. In the 21st century, information is one of the most valuable assets out there. We have technology companies that are making huge amounts of money developing programs and databases which manipulate data for marketers, companies and governments to help them make decisions about a whole range of commercial and government activities. The Land and Titles Office holds the key to much of that information, defining place and ownership. In generations to come, after this 35-year concession, a sale by any other name, we'll come to the day that this government sold off our information about our private spaces, our title of ownership, to the highest bidder. In some 77 privatisations since it came to 2011, the Baird-Grant National Liberal Government has an astounding track record on privatisation, privatising something on average every 26 days. That's more than one a month since it was elected. The government proudly proclaims itself as the new state of business, but as the general population is recently becoming more and more aware, the business this government is in, the new state of business in New South Wales is selling off all our state assets. And now that they are running out of the bricks and mortar and land, they are seeking to sell off the very register of those assets. And again, I actually remark on the comments of the member for Balmain and his concerns about whether the Treasurer would come clean on the future of the land and titles and land property buildings in Macquarie Street. And with this privatisation, we see again the hallmarks of the Baird-Grant government's arrogance and secrecy, and I doubt that we will get an answer on that, because not just one but two scoping studies conducted have been held back from public scrutiny. No transparency, no opportunity for review. Speaker, like so many of this government's privatisations and transactions, we're told to just take it on trust, that this is good for us, that the government knows best. And I don't think that the people of New South Wales are swallowing that anymore. Perhaps that's why, even though they started talking about this in 2012, it's not until now, after the 2015 state government election, the 2016 federal government election and the 2016 partial local government elections, that we finally see push this bill forward in a rush, in another late night debate with a refusal to give the community time to see what is being sold out from under them. Just like their announcement last week on the privatisation of our regional hospitals, just like the last late night debate of a few weeks ago which sought to wipe out a whole regional industry out of our economy. Mr Speaker, I am very concerned on the business impacts of this bill. The insurance industry recognises the very real risks to accuracy and veracity of property rights that are posed by this bill. Currently, surveyors and conveyancers and developers rely on the information from Land and Titles Office in order to conduct their business. I understand that currently the insurance premium for a surveyor is around $23,000 per annum, and the insurance industry has signalled that these premiums will increase astronomically. The irony for a government which pretends to care about small business is that it has absolutely no consideration for the increased costs that will be borne out by those in this industry. Of course, we know they don't care about small business, and their usual modus operandi will be to let the market take care of it. Let business pass it on to their customers, and let business pass it on to those mums and dads and kids, my kids and your kids, who are just trying to purchase homes. And those investors in the rental market, well, they'll just pass it on to their tenants. Of course, people will seek the lower costs, opening the door for larger businesses to take over and cannibalise the smaller businesses which can no longer afford to pay their insurances and retain low prices, and so will lose customers. And what about our citizens? With the fee increases referred to by the Shadow Minister already in place, this fattening of the pig for market has already seen an increase in fees which place extra stress on home buyers. For a government that pretends to care about housing affordability and the ability of ordinary Australians to purchase their own home, and for those who have to rent to pay a fair price, this bill shows comprehensively that they do not care. The risks inherent in the accuracy of the information under a private operator, recognised by the insurance industry in their warning about premium increases, will no doubt be added to the bill for home buyers, another attack on them and by extension tenants. Because this government does not care about consequences for anyone in this state, they do not care about the consequences for governments to come in the future, those who will have to unscramble this omelette. As the Shadow Minister said, the Treasurer responded to the Institute of Surveyors' query as to what would happen at the end of the 35-year period of privatisation by saying planning is not looking that far ahead. Well, I'm sorry, planning is looking that far ahead, just not in this government. This government is not looking far enough ahead. It's short-sighted, it's insular, it's basically not interested in providing quality services for any of its citizens, whether it's hospitals, whether it's schools, or whether it's even about those fundamental measures and registers of their land and property. I would like to finish by sharing the grave concerns outlined in the open letter from the Concerned Titles Group, telling us that they see the proposal to privatise the New South Wales land title system as representing the most momentous change to the Torrens system since its inception. This system, which is the envy of the world, the Bible of land developers and surveyors, is at risk, and this system, which provides cheap, efficient land registration services and provides a massive profit sufficient to fund hundreds and hundreds of teachers or nurses in our state schools and hospitals, is to be sold off. Only a government with no plans, no vision, other than to sell off every last remaining asset until everything is gone, would even consider such a move. I urge all members to oppose this bill.
Question is that this bill